The alien girl steps into the human cafeteria. The spaceship floated quietly in deep space, far from any known planet. Inside, the human crew was enjoying their usual lunch break. The cafeteria was filled with the smell of cooked meat, roasted, spices, and something that crackled on a hot grill. Private Juno, the youngest engineer, took a deep bite of his sandwich and smiled. "Chef did it again," he said with a grin. "Whatever this horned thing is, it's delicious." A door hissed open. Everyone turned. She walked in slowly, tall, graceful, and glowing slightly blue under the lights. Her name was Alira, a guest, diplomat from the planet Valari. She was here for peace talks, traveling with the humans for a few days to learn about their culture. Her skin shimmered with faint patterns that shifted like water. Her eyes, wide and curious, took in every detail of the room, then her eyes landed on the grill. Her smile froze. The humans followed her gaze. On the hot plate, Chef Moreno was flipping thick pieces of meat. They sizzled, dark and juicy, each slice bearing a rough edge and a bony curve sticking out like a small horn. Alira stepped closer, slowly, as if drawn by a force she didn't understand. She stopped just a few feet from the grill. Her hands trembled. Her voice came out soft but filled with panic. "You eat these horned monsters?" The entire room went silent. Moreno blinked. What? You mean the ribs?" Alira didn't answer. She took a step back, her skin now glowing a deep shade of purple. Her eyes were full of fear. One hand covered her mouth, as if she were about to be sick. Juno stood up slowly. "They're just animals from the last supply stop," he said. "We caught them in the mountains. Local species. They looked like goats with tusks." "Goralash," Alira whispered. "Captain." Elric walked in at that moment. He stopped when he saw everyone staring. "What's going on?" Alira turned to him. You hunted Goralash? And you're still alive?" The captain raised an eyebrow. What?" Alira shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. The Goralash is a cursed beast. It is protected. Not by law, but by legend. Entire colonies disappeared after harming one." Chef Moreno looked confused. "It attacked us first. It was huge, fast, and tried to gore one of our hunters. We just defended ourselves. And then you cooked it?" Alira's voice cracked. "We marinated it too," Juno muttered under his breath. The joke didn't land. Alira was deadly serious. "On my planet," she said, "children are told stories of the Goralash. It is not just dangerous. It is sacred. It is death itself. To eat its flesh is to call the old ones, the keepers of the horn." The room grew cold. Captain Elric frowned. "I've been in this sector 20 years and never heard of these keepers. Sounds like a myth." Alira's expression darkened. "They are real. They sleep, but they watch. Your crew may have woken them." Suddenly the lights flickered, just for a moment, but long enough for everyone to notice. Captain Elric looked around. Probably a power glitch. Alira didn't move. "It begins." Moreno stepped back from the grill. "Are you saying something's going to come after us just because we cooked this meat?" Alira nodded. "The keepers do not forgive. They do not speak. They arrive. They destroy." The captain exhaled slowly. "Okay, let's not panic. We'll get the science team to analyze the creature. Maybe it's not the same as your legend." Alira looked straight at him. "If the meat is from Goralash, it's already too late." Chef Moreno reached to turn off the grill. The smell of cooked flesh still filled the room. Alira took another step back. "I need to send a message to my people," she said. "They need to prepare." "Prepare for what?" Juno asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She turned her glowing eyes toward him. "For the return of the old ones," she said. "Because your crew just declared war with a bite." Silence filled the room again. No one touched their food after that. The truth about the sacred beast, the silence in the cafeteria lingered long after Alira left. The crew stared at their plates, unsure whether to feel afraid embarrassed, or just confused. Some whispered to each other, wondering if this was a cultural misunderstanding. Others glanced at the grill with suspicion, as if the meat itself might explode. No one touched it again. Captain Elric followed Alira down the corridor, his boots echoing softly behind her. She walked quickly, her steps almost floating. The colors in her skin swirled from purple to a deep, stormy blue. She was upset. More than upset, she was shaken in a way he hadn't seen before. "Alira," he called gently, "talk to me. What is the Goralash, really?" She stopped near the observation deck. The stars outside flickered like cold fire, far and unreachable. She turned slowly and looked at him with eyes that no longer held curiosity, but fear. "We call it the Eater of Moons," she said quietly. "Ancient, proud, and violent. The Goralash is not just a beast, it is a symbol, a warning. Our stories say that when the first settlers went too deep into wild space, they found it. And it found them." The captain listened closely, sensing this was no longer just a bedtime story from another world. Some tried to hunt it. They disappeared. Some worshipped it. Their minds broke, and some, Captain, some ate it. And then, something came. Elric frowned. "What came?" Alira looked out the window. Machines, made of bone and metal, silent, fast. They erased entire colonies. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't speak. They only left one thing behind. What? Horns. Rows and rows of horns. Broken, shattered, placed in circles around the ruins. He didn't know what to say. He wasn't the kind of man who believed in ghost stories, but something in her voice made his skin crawl. She wasn't just scared. She believed what she was saying with her whole soul. "But we've never encountered anything like that," he said. "Our people have explored hundreds of planets. You humans move fast," she replied. "You build fast, you eat fast. But some things in this universe are slow, patient. The keepers of the horn have not been seen in many lifetimes. But that does not mean they are gone." Back in the lab, Ensign Mara and Engineer Thomas were scanning the meat samples. The results were strange. The DNA structure didn't match anything in their records. It wasn't from any known wildlife on the supply planet. In fact, it wasn't even fully organic. "What does that mean?" Thomas asked, scratching his head. Mara pointed to the screen. "These cells, they're reinforced with something that resists decay, almost like armor." "You mean like synthetic tissue?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "It's natural, but it's designed to survive anything. Radiation, extreme cold, even vacuum exposure." Thomas's face turned pale. "And we ate that?" She nodded. Slowly, a call came through from the bridge. "Science Bay, this is Captain Elric. Send all your findings to my terminal now." As the data transferred, Alira stood behind the captain, arms crossed tightly across her chest. "You didn't just eat a beast," she said. "You insulted a relic of war. The Goralash were used by the ancients as weapons, guardians, even judges. Your people may have cooked one, but someone bred them, trained them, and someone is still watching." "Watching us?" Elric asked. "Watching it," she corrected, "because the Goralash are never truly alone. When one dies, something always knows." Before he could respond, the ship's alarm pulsed once. Not a full red alert, just a brief system ping. Someone was near their perimeter. "Captain," the officer on deck called. "We're detecting a probe, small old tech, drifting in a straight line. No beacon, no known origin." Elric turned toward Alira. Her voice was a whisper now. "They're already here." The crew scrambled into motion. Even those who didn't believe the story earlier now felt a chill crawling up their backs. Every scanner, every sensor, every camera was focused outward. The probe drifted slowly like a forgotten bottle tossed into the sea. No signal, no power, until it lit up. A burst of energy flashed across their screens. Encrypted patterns, circular, codes. Then it went dark. Mara analyzed it quickly. "This code, it's not just a message, it's a scan. It read our entire cargo. Elric's heart sank. They know what we ate, he muttered. Alira closed her eyes. Then the keepers will come. Secret transmissions and surveillance. The ship's corridors were filled with quiet tension. No one said it out loud, but everyone felt it. The strange chill in the air, the uneaten food, the flickering lights. Captain Elric stood in the command room, staring at the silent screen where the alien probe had vanished from view. The probe hadn't attacked. It hadn't spoken. But it had scanned their ship, cataloged their cargo, and left. I don't like this, he said to himself. Just then Lieutenant Kassir stepped in, holding a data pad. Captain, we've confirmed it. The probe sent out a subspace pulse. Coded, non-human. We traced its signal. It went deep into uncharted space. Elric's jaw tightened. Meaning someone knows what we've done? Or what we've eaten? Kassir added grimly. On the lower deck, Alira stood inside her private quarters. Her long fingers moved quickly over a small, hidden device she had smuggled aboard, an ancient Valari relic with crystal-like circuits. It was not part of the human ship's system, and that made it impossible to track. She activated the device and began to record a message. To the Council of Valari, this is Alira Talzan. I have confirmed that the humans have killed and consumed a Goralash. I witnessed it with my own eyes. They are unaware of its meaning, but I believe their ignorance will not protect them. She paused, then added in a softer tone, These humans, they do not fear like we do. They do not worship power. They face it. They bite into it. And maybe that is why they are still alive. She sent the message across a hidden frequency, one used only in ancient times. No reply came back, just silence, and yet she knew. Her people had received it. Meanwhile, in the biology lab, Ensign Mara couldn't stop staring at the data on her screen. She zoomed in closer. The meat cells under the microscope weren't just strong. They were reactive. One of the samples, stored in a vacuum chamber, had twitched. She leaned forward. That's impossible. But the motion repeated, not random, not decay. It was muscle memory. Commander? She called over the intercom. You might want to see this. Captain Elric arrived minutes later with Tomas and Kassir. The lights in the lab were dimmed to protect the sensitive scans. Look, Mara said, pointing. This meat is still responding to environmental changes. Temperature, light, sound. Tomas frowned. That's not meat. That's something else. Maybe it's part of the creature's defense, Mara said. Or something left over in its cells. Either way, this isn't just an animal. Elric stepped closer. You think the Goralash is biologically engineered? I think it was. Created for war, she said. Its muscles can survive in space, its skin reflects energy, and its nerves. They're laced with something we can't identify. Then how did we even kill it? Tomas asked. Elric turned to him, face hard. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we just found a dead one. Those words made the room feel colder. On the other side of the ship, Juno was replaying footage from the hunting mission. He sat alone in the surveillance room, watching frame by frame how their team had tracked the beast through rocky hills, how it roared, charged, and fought back before falling to a barrage of plasma rifles. It looked like a normal animal. Fast, wild, strong, but not impossible to kill. But then he saw something he hadn't noticed before. Just as the beast lay dying, something shimmered in its eyes. Not pain. Not fear. Recognition. Juno leaned closer. He froze the frame and zoomed in. In the reflection of the beast's eyes, there was something above it, faint and strange, like a shape in the clouds. A triangle. No. A ship. Captain, he said over comms. I need you to see something. I think we weren't alone when we hunted that thing. Captain Elric arrived fast. He saw the image, the triangle in the sky, almost invisible. That's not human tech, he muttered. Could be cloaked surveillance. Maybe it wasn't just watching the Goralash, Juno said. Maybe it was watching us. At that moment, another alert flashed on the main display. Unidentified transmission detected. Origin unknown. signal strength increasing on the bridge. The crew quickly triangulated the source. The transmission wasn't coming from deep space. It was coming from inside the ship. "Who else is sending messages?" the captain demanded. No one answered. Systems Officer Darren typed fast. "Sir, it's encrypted, not our system. Looks alien." Elric turned his eyes toward the only alien on board. "Find Elira," he ordered. "Now." But when they reached her quarters, she was gone, and so was her transmitter. A trail of soft blue light glowed on the walls, faint energy residue from Valari tech. It led toward the ship's hangar. Elric felt a rush of dread. "She called them," he said. "She called the Keepers." And far out in space, deep beyond the black void, something answered. A single signal pulsed back, heavy, slow, and filled with intent. Something old had opened its eyes, and it was looking directly at them. The creature's protectors awaken. The darkness between stars is never truly empty. Beyond the reach of known systems, past forgotten ruins and failed colonies, a hidden region of space stirred with movement. No signal came from it, no broadcast, no beacons, no sound, only silence. And then a pulse. A single beat, like a heart that had not moved in centuries. And somewhere inside that silent void, they woke up. A colossal structure unfolded itself from nothingness. Invisible before, now it revealed its form like a shadow stretching in moonlight. Ancient metal and bone merged into a single terrifying design. It did not look built. It looked grown, like something had dreamt it into being. Inside the heart of the construct, a golden eye opened. Its lens spun once, then twice. It focused, zooming across trillions of kilometers, until it locked onto a single human ship drifting near a dusty trade planet, the ship that had eaten the flesh of the sacred. The Keepers of the Horn were awake, on the horizon ember. Chaos was beginning to bloom. Crew members rushed down the halls. Alerts pinged in every direction. The internal systems were tracking the signal Elira had sent. It had passed through security firewalls like they weren't even there, bouncing across dozens of old relay networks. It was ancient code, so old, it confused the computers, but the destination was now clear. "Sir," Comms Officer Darren said, his voice dry, "we've confirmed her signal reached a dead sector, Sector 99C. No known civilizations. It's been red zone since the early expansion era. No traffic, no satellites, nothing." Captain Elric stared at the map. He didn't like any of it. If it's dead, then why are we getting a signal back? Before Darren could respond, the bridge lights dimmed and the holographic screen lit up. A long-range sensor image flickered into view. Static, then focus, then horror. An object was moving toward them. It was massive, bigger than a dreadnought, bigger than any alien ship recorded in human archives. Its hull shimmered like cracked obsidian. Parts of it looked fossilized. Other parts pulsed with red veins that throbbed like a heartbeat. Long curved appendages hung from its sides. Some were weapons, others looked like ancient horns broken and reforged into new shapes. The object wasn't broadcasting any identity. It wasn't answering hails, but it was coming. "Is that one of the Keepers?" someone whispered on the bridge. Captain Elric didn't answer. He was staring at the center of the image. There, embedded in the front of the ship like a crown, was something unmistakable. A cluster of broken horns, dozens of them arranged in a circle. The same symbol left at the sites of ancient destroyed colonies. Deep in the medical bay, Juno sat beside Mara, who was scanning the last of the meat. Samples she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, but her hands were steady. "It's still alive," she said softly. "Somehow the cells are reacting to that signal from space." Reacting how? They're aligning, like preparing, like they're waking up too. Juno looked at the sample under the scope. The meat, once still, was pulsing slowly. It looked like muscle remembering how to move. He stepped back, horrified. "We brought something on board that doesn't want to be food. It wants revenge." Mara looked up. "Or, it wants to go home." Elira was found in the auxiliary hangar, Standing near an escape pod, her hands held calmly behind her back. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She simply waited for the guards to arrive. When they brought her before the captain, she showed no fear. "You betrayed us," Elric said. "You invited a war." "No," she replied. "You started a war. I only warned my people what was coming." "That ship isn't your people." "No," she said. "It's something older, something even we fear. But you broke the horn. Now it remembers." Elric stared at her for a long time, then asked, "Why didn't you stop us when we hunted it?" She lowered her eyes. "I didn't think you would succeed. No one ever has, but you did. You killed a Gorlash. That means something to them. It means you're a threat." "We didn't know," he said. "We didn't mean—" "They don't care," Alira said sharply. "The Keepers don't listen. They judge, they come, and they erase." An hour later, the Keeper ship arrived. No weapons were fired. No message was sent. Instead, the stars themselves began to flicker, as if space were being rewritten. The crew watched as tiny drones, round, horn-shaped, and silent, spread out from the massive ship and began to circle the horizon, ember like wolves surrounding prey. Suddenly, a cold voice echoed through the ship's speakers. Not through radio, not through translation, directly into the minds of every crew member. "Return what you consumed, or be consumed." Mara clutched her head, shaking. "They're speaking without sound." Captain Elric stood straight, jaw clenched. "We don't even have the full body anymore. Just some meat." "Then return the memory," Alira whispered. "What memory?" "The Gorlash saw you," she said. "It remembered you. Now its protectors do too." Elric turned toward the crew. "We need answers, real ones. Find out what these Keepers want before they decide to break us in half." Outside the ship, the drones spun faster, forming a glowing ring around them. And far in the distance, the Keeper ship opened its massive center, revealing a hollow tunnel filled with light, bones, and the ghosts of 1,000 broken horns. Something was coming through, and it was not coming in peace. Confrontation with the Keepers, the ring of horn-shaped drones surrounding the horizon, ember pulsed like a heartbeat. Slow, rhythmic, and heavy with meaning. Each time they flashed, a strange vibration moved through the ship, so deep and low it made metal groan and the crew's teeth ache. Captain Elric stood at the center of the command deck, watching the data streams pour in. None of it made sense. The drones weren't jamming systems, but they were causing power surges. No damage, just pressure, as if the ship was being squeezed by something ancient and invisible. "Still no message?" he asked. Lieutenant Kassir shook his head. "Nothing. But that same phrase in our heads, no signal, no voice. They're bypassing everything, talking directly to us." The voice had said just one thing: "Return what you consumed." Mara, now pale and sleepless, burst into the room with a data pad. "Sir, the meat samples, one of them's gone." Elric turned sharply. "What do you mean gone?" "Vaporized," she said, breathless. "Just vanished from the containment. Pottage, no heat, no residue. It's like they took it." The captain's heart sank. "They're already inside." Meanwhile, deep inside the Keeper vessel, something vast stirred. In the chamber of judgment, 13 horned beings, neither living nor dead, rose from black stone thrones. They had no mouths, no eyes, just towering bone-carved bodies and burning golden crests where faces should be. They were the arbiters, the oldest of the Keepers, and they had decided the humans would be tested. Back on the horizon ember, a blinding beam of light shot from the Keeper ship and enveloped the bridge. The crew screamed, but it wasn't pain. It was pulling. And in the next second, Captain Elric was gone. He opened his eyes inside a void of white. Nothing but endless light. Then he was falling into a battlefield of sound and flame. The sky turned red above him. The ground below was cracked and burning. Creatures screamed in the distance. Horns echoed through the air. He looked down. He was inside another body. Not human, He had the strength of a tank. His feet crushed stone. Curved horns grew from his head. He was the Goralash. He stumbled forward, confused and terrified, feeling emotions that weren't his. Pride, fury, pain, and then, blinding light again. Plasma rifles. Human voices. He remembered the moment. The hunt. His own crew. They were firing at him, and now he could feel what the beast had felt. Betrayal. Agony. Silence. And then, death. Elric collapsed on the ground of the white void, gasping for air. The vision faded, and he was back in his own body. One of the arbiters stood before him. Its voice was inside his skull. "You have seen." "Yes," he coughed. "It was defending itself. You consumed its memory. Now it consumes yours." "Please," Elric begged. "We didn't know. We thought it was just an animal. If we'd known, ignorance is not innocence." He stood slowly, shaking. "Then tell us what to do. We'll make it right." The arbiter paused. It's sacred." And then, everything vanished. Elric collapsed onto the bridge floor, gasping as the light vanished. His crew rushed to him. "What happened?" Kasir asked. "They showed me," Elric whispered. What the Goralash felt. What it was. He looked at Alira, who stood quietly in the corner. "You were right. We didn't just kill something, we insulted it. But there's something else." "What?" she asked. "They don't want revenge," Elric said. "They want respect." The crew gathered in the main cargo bay, where the last sealed crate of Goralash meat remained. It sat, quietly in its containment field, unaware of the war it had started. Captain Elric stood beside it, a torch in his hand. Around him, the crew held silent vigil. "We took without knowing," he said. "We consumed without care. Now we return it, not as waste, not as apology, but as an offering." He opened the crate. The meat glowed softly now, reacting to the presence of the keeper ship above. Elric raised the torch and burned it. The flames curled around the sacred flesh. It did not sizzle. It did not smoke. It simply turned to light and vanished. Outside, the drones began to slow. Their circle widened, and from the keeper ship, a single shape descended. A drone. Unlike the others, it entered the horizon, ember and hovered before the captain. A golden horn extended from its center, and then it crumbled, gently, into dust. Trial of the Eater, for the next 24 hours, the horizon ember drifted in eerie silence. The crew didn't speak much, not out of orders, but out of something deeper. Awe, maybe fear. The kind of quiet that comes after brushing too close to something ancient and alive, something that could have crushed them, but didn't. The keeper ship still hovered beyond visual range, massive, patient. Its ring of horned drones had scattered but hadn't left. They now floated around the human ship like silent guardians, or judges still considering a verdict not yet written. In the mess, hall no one ate. The once beloved horned meat was now gone, reduced to light and dust. Every plate sat untouched. The memory of the Goralash was no longer something that filled their stomachs, but something that weighed on their hearts. Captain Elric sat alone in the observation chamber, staring at the stars. He replayed the vision over and over, the beast's pain, its rage, its confusion. He had been trained for combat, diplomacy, survival, but nothing prepared him for that. Alira joined him quietly, her shimmering skin a soft mix of sorrowful blue and thoughtful gray. "You should rest," she said. He didn't respond. After a moment, she sat beside him. "They chose you," she said. "You were the one to feel it." Elric looked at her. "I didn't deserve to. I was the one who ordered the hunt. And maybe that's why they chose you." Before either of them could say more, the entire ship vibrated, not from impact, but from a pull. Gravity itself twisted for a moment, and then Captain Elric vanished again. This time the void was darker. He stood on a smooth platform surrounded by a vast field of stars. But unlike the blinding white from before, this place felt colder, older. Massive shapes floated in the darkness. Horns, bones, ancient glyphs etched into stone that drifted like forgotten prayers. The 13 arbiters stood in a circle around him once more. But now, a new presence joined them. Something even larger stepped forward. A figure made of broken armor and luminous cracks, towering and silent. The original eater, the first Goralash, the one from which all others had been born. Its body shimmered, with memory. Images flickered across its surface, wars lost, worlds burned, ancient oaths whispered in the ruins of civilizations. "You tasted our blood," the arbiters said as one. "Now you must carry our memory." Elric braced himself. "I already saw what it felt." "No, you watched. Now you will live." A beam of golden energy pierced him, and suddenly, he was no longer Captain Elric. He was it. He awoke in a chamber, of glass and steel, smaller now, younger, a newly bred Goralash cub. He could feel it all, the warmth of the chamber, the hum of machines, the heavy eyes of scientists above. Not human, not Valari, but something older, long gone. Their voices were sharp, emotionless. This one will guard the vault. The others failed. This one must remember. Time shifted. He grew, learned to hunt, to kill, to feel pride in victory, and fear, not of death, but of disrespect. Each time another species approached the forbidden planets, the keepers released one like him, a protector, a judge, a symbol, but the humans, they were different. When they came, they didn't worship, they didn't run, they fought. And for the first time, he bled. His final memory was falling. Not from fear, but from surprise. How had something so small struck so hard? Elric awoke screaming. Sweat soaked his uniform. His muscles trembled. He fell to his knees on the bridge, surrounded by his stunned crew. Mara rushed forward. "Sir!" He grabbed her arm. "I saw everything. I was the first. I was bred to protect relics older than history. I wasn't just a beast. I was a keeper." Alira stepped forward, her face pale. "They made you carry the memory," she whispered. "They needed someone to understand them," Elric said. "Someone who ate what was sacred and was willing to feel what they had lost." The ship's lights dimmed again. Another drone arrived, but this one was different, larger, glowing with inscriptions along its body. It hovered silently in the air, then opened. Inside was a single item, a horn, but it was carved, polished, placed gently on a bed of starlight threads. Not a threat, a gift. Alira stared at it, speechless. "They've never given this to anyone." Captain Elric stepped forward and picked up the horn. A vision rippled through him. Stars, peace, and a silent promise. He understood. "They want us to remember," he said. "Not just what we did, but who they were." He turned to his crew. "We're not just explorers now," he said. "We're witnesses. We've tasted the sacred. Now we carry its memory." He lifted the horn. The drones vanished. The keeper ship pulled away into the darkness, silent and watching, and the stars grew quiet once more. But the horizon ember would never be the same, because its captain had become something new, not just an eater, but a bearer of legacy. Peace through the plate weeks passed. The horizon ember returned to human space slower than it had ever traveled before. Not because of damage, there was none, but because the crew had changed. No one rushed, no one joked. Even the hum of the engine seemed quieter, like the ship itself had become more careful, more thoughtful. Captain Elric kept the carved horn in a case made of transparent crystal, mounted at the center of the bridge. It wasn't locked. He didn't want it locked. Everyone needed to see it, to remember it, and they did. Each time a crew member passed by, their eyes paused on the horn. Some nodded in respect. Others simply stared. Even the most hardened officers now treated it like a living relic. The ship's kitchen was closed for a time. Food was rationed, then sterilized, then carefully resourced. Chef Moreno volunteered to stop cooking meat entirely. He couldn't bring himself to touch it after. What happened? Instead, he turned to synthetic meals, replicated dishes that looked real but came from no animal. But one evening, something unusual happened. Alira returned. She arrived in a Valari transport, stepping aboard with a strange, shimmering container in her hands. Her skin glowed softly, pale silver mixed with twilight blue. She had been gone for days, visiting her homeworld, sharing everything she'd witnessed aboard the human ship. When she entered the mess hall, every crew member stood still. No one had seen her smile since the day of the Goralash incident. But today she smiled. "I brought something," she said. The captain stepped forward slowly. "What is it?" She placed the container gently on the main table. The lid slid open with a soft hum, revealing 3 circular dishes, beautifully arranged, fragrant and glowing faintly blue. "This," she said, "is a peace dish." Everyone gathered close. The dish resembled Goralash meat, same shape, same color, same scent. But it wasn't real. It was grown in a Valari biolab, using non-living proteins and synthetic memory strands. "We call it memory food," she explained. "It does not come from a creature. It holds no death, no pain. But it carries the story. It was created with your scans, your records, and our traditions." Juno stepped forward wide-eyed. "You mean, this is fake meat that remembers?" Alira laughed softly. "In a way, yes. It is a dish born from forgiveness." Captain Elric looked at her for a long moment. Then, without a word, he picked up a fork. The room held its breath. He tasted it, and he closed his eyes. For a moment, he was back in the white void, the sound of horns in the distance, the feeling of massive footsteps in ancient soil. But this time, there was no pain, no judgment, only peace. He opened his eyes and nodded. "Serve it," he said. "Everyone." That night, the mess hall was full. For the first time in weeks, the crew sat together at long tables, speaking, laughing carefully, even sharing stories. Each person held a plate of the synthetic peace dish. No one rushed. No one joked. They ate slowly, thoughtfully, like every bite carried meaning, because it did. The dish became a tradition, served once every 7 days aboard the Horizon Ember. No one called it by its original name. Instead, they simply called it the offering, and with it came new customs. Before each meal, the crew would place their hands over their hearts and whisper the ancient words Alira taught them. "Remember before you take." Months later, news spread across human and Valari space. The horned meat that once filled trade routes disappeared. The hunting grounds were closed. In their place, memorial sites were built, rings of crystal and stone, honoring the Goralash not as prey, but as protectors of forgotten truths. Diplomats from dozens of species asked to visit the Horizon Ember. They didn't want war strategies or trade routes. They wanted the recipe. But more than that, they wanted the story. They wanted to understand why a human ship returned from the edge of space carrying a horn, a memory, and a new kind of respect. One cycle later, Captain Elric stood before a council of mixed worlds. He wasn't there to negotiate. He wasn't there to threaten. He was there to share a meal. "We used to eat without thought," he said, holding the polished horn in one hand and a plate in the other. "We used to conquer before we listened." He placed the horn on the center table. "But we learned something among the stars. There are beasts more ancient than history, guardians who don't speak but remember." He looked at the dish in front of him. "And if you eat their flesh, you carry their story."